So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Well, I would have soared higher.
You think so?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, it wouldn't be my friend.
Toni Braxton wasn't just the voice of her family. She carried all their weight, too. For years, people have assumed she was the one holding everything together, and now it's finally been confirmed. She wasn't just the star, she was the provider, the protector, the one making sure everyone else was okay while she quietly fell apart. From a young age, Toni was pushed to grow up fast and take on responsibilities no child should have to carry. Behind the fame and glamour of the Braxton family, there was pain, resentment, and unspoken tension. Her sisters leaned on her so much, they didn't notice when she was at her limit. She finally called out Traci and Towanda for going too far, taking advantage of her kindness, stealing from her, and still making her feel like she wasn't enough. Fans admired the love between the sisters, but they missed how much Toni was suffering in silence. She gave her family everything: money, support, shelter, but was expected to keep giving without ever falling apart. That kind of pressure builds a quiet kind of sadness, the kind no amount of success can fix. So grab your snacks. There's a lot more to this story than we ever saw on TV.
They weren't leaning on you. What would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Well, I would have soared.
Now that the Braxtons are back on our screens, people are talking again, and not always in a good way. Everyone seems to know that something isn't right behind the scenes. From the outside, Toni Braxton always looked flawless. She had the awards, the stunning voice, the magazine covers. But what most people didn't know was that even with all that success, Toni was deeply unhappy. Before we get lost in the drama, let's take a moment to give Toni her flowers. She deserves it. Toni Braxton has been breaking records and melting hearts since many of us were still learning to walk. 7 Grammy Awards, over 70 million records sold, and a voice so beautiful it could move you to tears whether you were sitting in church or dancing in a club. But while she was making history, she was also carrying the weight of her entire family. To some, she's a legendary artist. To others, mainly her own family, she was more like a walking bank account. Toni's story started in Severn, Maryland. She was the oldest of 6 kids. Their mother was a gospel singer with big dreams for her children. But things took a turn when their mother suffered a terrible accident and had to spend months in the hospital. Toni, still just a teenager, had to step up. She became the caretaker. She made sure her siblings were fed and had a roof over their heads while their father worked hard to provide. "I had to grow up fast," she once said. "I was like a second mom." When Toni's career exploded in the 1990s, thanks to songs like Unbreak My Heart and Breathe Again.
13 or 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell. And her back was really messed up, so she was in hospital a long time. And so I was a surrogate parent for a moment.
Where was Dad?
Working, had to make them.
You'd think her family would celebrate. But instead, some of her sisters reportedly began treating her like an ATM. Recently, Toni opened up about how she's been drained, emotionally, physically, and financially. She carried the Braxton name, but also the Braxton bills. She helped fund failed business ventures, paid for cars and rent, and kept quiet about just how much she had given. Though she never named names, fans quickly guessed that Traci and Towanda were high on that list. Toni explained that some of her sisters were more focused on getting paid to work with her than actually supporting her. Meanwhile, Tamar, despite her own wild moments,
The burden on you is the one that made it out. But you gotta be willing to let them fly.
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't.
was helping behind the scenes without asking for anything in return. Tamar even said once that Traci never even sent an invoice, and Towanda never offered to help at all. Then Toni said something that shook people, including their own mother. "I could have soared higher if I didn't have to carry so much." And she wasn't just talking about money. She meant the weight of being the one everyone leaned on. She wondered, what could her life have looked like if she hadn't always been expected to hold everyone else up? The family's issues only got deeper from there. What started as one sister's heartbreak is now a vault of secrets being opened. Betrayals, lies, regret. And Tamar years ago said this would happen. Let's talk about the storm Toni had to face. While she was climbing the charts and trying to keep her place in the music world, she was also fighting to stay sane. Imagine being praised everywhere, but going home to chaos.
That you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this. Because it would appear, and you can explain to us whatever you want to explain to us, but it would appear that even if you don't believe that you got the percentages you felt that you got, you still knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in. And exactly, and you overspent that amount of money.
Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long.
People assume that if you sell 170 million albums, you must be rich. But Toni was barely getting anything from her music. She was earning 35 cents per album. That's right, just 35 cents. Meanwhile, she was supporting a massive record label. She was the face, but not the one getting paid. In 1998, she'd had enough. She sued her label. But just 8 weeks later, she filed for bankruptcy. And no, it wasn't because she blew her money on fancy cars or expensive trips. It was because she had to pay back the label for everything, from clothes to music.
None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said, there's only 4 vents. The 4 vents. Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with mommy car insurance.
Videos to studio time. She was basically paying to be famous. The world found out during an Oprah interview, but instead of support, she got judgment. Oprah asked, "Why are you broke if you're so famous?" And it felt cold. Toni didn't get sympathy.
Matter of respect. I respect where people are. That's just, is that why? I respect where people are. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy. Mm-hmm. I make different choices in my life. Mm-hmm. And that's just where I am.
She got shame. To make things worse, rumors say Oprah warned Toni's label that she might talk too much. People were shocked. The interview was a disaster and a major setback for Toni. Then in 2010, just as she was trying to bounce back, she got diagnosed with lupus and microvascular angina. She had to cancel her Las Vegas residency, but her insurance didn't cover the cancellation. Toni had to pay everything out of pocket, from the hotel rooms to the staff salaries. She filed for bankruptcy again. In her own words, "I let my finances become everyone else's finances." That wasn't the end of it. In 2018, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board came after her for unpaid taxes. They said she owed more than $450,000. She was warned they'd start seizing her property if she didn't pay. You might wonder, how does someone who's still touring, still working, still glowing, keep ending up in debt? The answer is family. Toni was covering not just bills, but emotional weight. She even said, "None of my siblings helped take care of our mom, only Tamar." Not even a small gesture like helping with car insurance. Nothing. And the tension just got worse when their reality show came back. At one point, filming had to stop because things got too heated. Toni stormed off, saying she was done. Towanda and Tamar have clashed for years. When Tamar launched her cooking show, none of her sisters showed up. 2 days earlier, there had been a huge...
Makes it a little more difficult. Sometimes I wake up every morning and I go, oh, did I dream it? Did I dream it? And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone, but she's been here with us for 50 years. So I try to relish in that moment, and I try to smile about it and just be grateful for the time you have. And you have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do, okay? There's the rite of passage to fuss and fight, but in the end, we're always
fight. Towanda later posted, "If you distanced yourself from me, stay there." Towanda got married, and while Toni and Trina were at the wedding, Tamar was not. The sisters are clearly picking sides. And when someone asked Towanda about her relationship with Tamar, she replied, "I don't pour into certain energies anymore." Towanda might have always looked calm, but behind closed doors, she relied heavily on Toni, especially during her divorce. It's no wonder Toni feels used. "I was there for you, but where were you when I needed you?" Fans have taken sides. Some say Towanda is jealous of Tamar's success. Others think they're all just tired of pretending. One person said, "We didn't want the Braxtons back to watch them fight. We wanted to see love." Another wrote, "Toni is owed so much." And then there's Traci. She passed away in 2022, but her pain lingers. She had been left out of early music deals because she got pregnant young. That hurt stayed with her. Her relationship with Toni had layers: love, resentment, sorrow, and now that she's gone, those unresolved feelings just float in the air. Toni recently said, "Sometimes I wake up and wonder if it was just a dream." She's tired, not just from the money problems, but from the emotional weight of it all. Now, Tamar has done something unexpected. She brought Ashley Braxton, their niece, onto the new season of their show. Ashley, who once exposed disturbing behavior from Trina's then-husband, was later pushed away by the family. Some say Tamar's move was messy. Others believe it was an act of protection, to show Ashley that she still had someone in her corner. Whatever the reason, this has stirred up even more drama. Production had to stop. Old wounds reopened. And now it's not just about Toni's fame or Tamar's career. It's about healing, or the lack of it. Because at the end of the day,